I'm one of the founders here at Gooey, and joined by a few of my teammates, Dave and Ambika and Swati, and we're so excited to have everybody here. Today, hopefully you'll get to learn about what we're trying to build a bit, and then hopefully get a bunch of demos to see how other people are using us, and then also then learn how to get essentially the whole gambit of generative AI as tools that you can play with. I feel like Ambika is kind of our showrunner today, and over to you, and then you may pass it back to me, and then I think I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, so we are all here to kind of get our fingers into the pie of that is AI. But I'm going to kind of give it off to Sean. Sean is our CEO and founder. We've got Swati, she heads operation and in India, and we've also got Dave here, who is our technical co-founder. Is that the correct terminology? Yes. All right. So we've been building some interesting workflows with AI, and Sean will give us a quick sense of where we're headed and what's happening in this wonderful, interesting, sometimes difficult world. And then from there on, we'll do a bit of a demo.
Not only a demo, but hopefully you get a sense of like how to actually use these things. So we'll try to be really quick on the slideware and then fast or longer on the parts where we're actually showing off functionality. So the goal of the company is like, how do we make AI simple and really composable? And we'll get to what we mean by that. So our goal is to say, that in this wide world of all of this new crazy stuff that's coming up, our goal is to say, well, that people should be able to find and tweak and fork these little recipes, just like you can on GitHub, just like Vue Source enabled, just like JS Fiddle enabled. And that's so people can make their own amazing content. And then you can do all of that without having to worry about getting accounts across all of these interesting paid APIs. And so, we know that it's changing lots of work. We've seen lots of pictures of essentially, folks like Datella saying, hey, we're going to AI generate every single, label that we've got to make 5 million labels. I'm sure you've all seen interesting pictures, and SIGGRAPH is coming up, but clearly AI generated videos is coming up. But, the problem as we see it is that, there's this whole push of like, well, how the hell does every company become an AI company? If the AI lawyers are going to replace if the lawyers who use AI are going to replace all the lawyers that don't, how do you start using AI as a lawyer, right? And so the way that we think, the answer to that is essentially what we're trying to build, which is like, namely, how can you be so incredibly fast to prototype and see what other people are doing, and then ultimately deploy these things back into your organization. So what do we mean by that? I think it's easier to show in terms of a set of examples. And so, like one of the folks that we're working with is Fandom. They're a big content creator site. They're looking for ways that, their shows and the content creators, not the content creators, but the fans that make content on top of that site can go ahead and quickly make kind of topical stuff about the stuff they're interested in. So like, this is just a very simple recipe that we've got that allows you to do a Google image search, in this case for the Scrubs cast, and then add a Valentine's Day party. And then we're just applying essentially one of the newest tools that came out literally a week and a half ago called Instruct Pics to Pics, that basically takes an image and transforms it and, is given this thing a bunch of hearts. Another client that we have is essentially using us to say, well, we know that it's, that GPT-3 and ChatGPT has come out and they've got all these amazing things that allow you to talk to it. Can I create a similar experience, but for my own company? And so here, IoT Ready has basically taken one of our recipes that allows you to just put in a script. And so you can see the bottom of it a little bit of the following is a conversation with an AI bot called IoT Ready. And then it describes what their company does. And then what we've allowed them to do is they can just embed a little bit of JS code on their site. And then boom, you can ask any question to this bot about anything, and it will respond in the character and the tone and the information provided by IoT Ready, just like GPT-3 and ChatGPT allows you to talk about anything. And then we're working on allowing these things to be hooked up to your Facebook page, your Instagram page, your Twitter page as well. we've got another client, Jakta, that's basically using us to say, hey, can I basically send personalized videos to try to inspire action and little viral artifacts? So they're using us to basically create thousands of these little videos, which is, you've got this little recorded personalized message with a different name for each person, thanking them for their political support. And again, the work to do that is all about just, they needed to select a voice, upload essentially a video that was used as the basis of the lip sync, and then tell us the text, right, that should go out. And then boom, we create all of those. As another example for the marketers out there, right, this is another example of essentially another client that we've got where, you literally just upload a photo and then you can describe the background you want with this photo. So in this one, we said, okay, we uploaded a picture of their hemp chocolate bar, and then they just described, a high quality product photo with an oak wooden table, slices of pineapple, and then it just draws these things. And so we'll show all of this today in terms of how you use it. But we wanted to give you a sense of like what we're trying to do, which is to say, listen, there's all these crazy new generative AI tools coming up on top out there. And we just want to be this layer on top where you can basically play with all of them, tweak all of them, and not have to worry about kind of billing with all of them. And then use all of these things to connect up to all of the stuff that we use everywhere else, social media and integrations, et cetera. It just as a sense, like we've got a whole mess of these kind of tools today, and Ambika will go over many of them. And the way that we view the world is we basically compose these little parts, be it a voice synthesis engine, the ability to create imagery, the ability to use GPT-3, and then compose them into these interesting experiences that you'll be able to see today. And then, this is a cute one, which is, just an example of the sort of videos we create. So this
is me, Dwayne Johnson. I wish you were very happy.
So this is Dwayne Johnson wishing somebody a happy Diwali, in Dwayne Johnson's voice with that kind of deep fake piece, right? And yeah, obviously things like that are suddenly possible when you can compose essentially looking up email from a contact lookup service, doing text creation from something like GPT-3, doing audio synthesis from something like, in this case, it was UberDuck, and then running essentially deepfake, which is running on our own servers to then render that video. So we've tried to simplify all of that and make that into recipes. And so I'll leave you one party thought, which is, we think that every business is an AI business, and that most of our jobs in the future are probably some form of being really good prompt writers. But the way that we're going to differentiate ourselves is to be able to sort of connect to other custom data sources and put this stuff together in an interesting way. And so that, as we're calling API stitchers. And so we're trying to basically build a platform where that's really simple. So with that, I give it to my esteemed colleague, Ambika, and I'm going to be around if there's questions and all those other things. And we encourage everybody to use the chat for anything that you've got as questions as we're going along.
Thank you for that really good introduction. And I'm happy that we started it off with you, Sean, because I think this is our first open workshop really out there and getting ourselves into the mix with everyone, learning what everyone is interested in and excited about AI. Swati's got a little poll going. Perhaps before we start, if you can just give us a sense of a baseline in terms of what's happening in your world in terms of what is your biggest hurdle for using AI for your work? And then perhaps if you'd like to add, okay, maybe we'll do that once you're done with the poll.
Yeah, let's just take a few seconds to just fill it out.
Are you guys able to see the poll? Is it okay? Don't know where to begin. Too expensive. Good. Too technical.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Ending the poll now.
Okay. So before we kind of deep dive, I just want to learn a couple of things about what you guys are up to, where you are. Some of you have already written that in the chat. If you've not, please just write to us and tell us where you're joining in from, what you're up to, what is it about AI that's exciting to you right now. I know it's really late in the night and people don't want to show their faces on the camera. So perhaps just with a bit of reactions, can you tell me if you've heard of GPT-3? Yeah. Have you heard of Midjourney? Okay, couple of you. Have you heard of Stable Diffusion? Right. Okay, what about any speech to text, text to speech kind of software that you've used before? Right. And of those who've heard of all of these, how many have used GPT-3 for anything, just a small project or like sending a prank email to someone? Okay, that's a couple. Okay. And how many have gotten their hands dirty with using either Stable Diffusion or Midjourney? All right. Sorry. And then the last one is, how many of you have paid for using any of these apps? Right. Okay, super. So I just wanted to get a sense of that. So today we're going to do just a few of our tools and just kind of get you guys started with this whole idea of what it means to like participate in this new world of AI. I'm going to share my screen, and please ignore my insane number of tabs, but they'll be useful for sure as we go on. So I think the core of all of it is two things. That one is, where do you start? And the second is, once you've started or wherever you are, what do you write? So it is very common for me to hear that, oh, I started my journey I started my journey in AI. I was doing Stable Diffusion, but I didn't know how to get the prompts going. I thought of something and I didn't know what it meant. Or I went to GPT-3, I tried it, but I didn't get the answers that I was looking for. So to me, that's a very, very simple thing. It's about prompting. And I think prompting is something that we do every day as professionals, or as people who are in our universities, where we are using language in a particular way to talk to certain people. So whether that's trying to convince the admin to give us attendance for the day we skipped, or whether that's trying to get the boss to give us a good performance review, it's all about prompting people in the right way. It's all about using language in the right way. So it's the same with machines. They just want you to be delicate with them. They want you to sensitively talk to them and give them the right cues that they need to give the responses that you need. We'll start off with our two base tools. One is for image generation and the other is for language models. And then we'll go a little bit deeper into some of our other tools. And if you guys have already started your journey with Gooey and you have questions about specific tools, we can try to address them today as well. So just sort of, okay, one last reaction. Sorry, guys. I'm just very obsessed with reactions. How many of you have already tried Gooey before joining in on this workshop? Okay. All right, cool. So that's okay. So I know these two people because they are from the design school that we are teaching at. Great. So I just wanted to start you guys off a little bit. You must have seen that during December there were a lot of people putting up these very beautiful Midjourney images of Midjourney images of older women dancing in a party, and also men. And we tried to see if we could do that in the GUI tools. We've got a link here. In fact, maybe I can even share this presentation with everyone. But what we can do now is just head over to the image generator tool, and I will explain to you what's happening. Now, GUI in itself, of course, starts with a home page, and we've got a very wonderful set of featured tools. And if you go into Explore, you can really deep dive. We already have about 15 very easy to use workflows, including making interactive video bots to get your SEO going, and other tools like, of course, the image generators and changing faces out in from your profile pictures, etc. So we'll head over to this image generator, which is also the link in the chat. I'm assuming that you guys will not be signed in, so you just need to sign in here with your email addresses. When you sign in, you will get a a number of credits free, 1,000 as you start off. And then we can like begin this strange journey of ours here. Right. So this is just to get you guys going, just to like get you out of that Friday night funk. So we'll just do a simple, quick exercise on building a nice portrait. It could be something from real life. It could be fantastical, whatever you want. We've got a bunch of models here to select from. And what that basically means is that we've been able to tap into various Stable Diffusion and DALL-E and give you various what they call embeddings or models that are trained specifically to get certain kinds of images. So here we've got Stable Diffusion as a base model in its previous versions. Open Journey gives you more fantastical images. They are very much like Mid Journey from the last few months ago. Analog Diffusion gives you very beautiful old retro kind of images. Dreamlike gives you very, very nice, highly saturated portraits. Of course, DALL-E does its own thing. They are sort of building it on their own independently. And we have a couple more interesting ones like here, Rodent Diffusion, which is still kind of in the making, which is more about like trying to connect all of these different models and get something out of it. So like instead of having I mean, we'll get into a bit more, but the core of it is the prompting. So here you can see that there is a bunch of text written. It says Elsa, D&D, fantasy. So it's already building it up to giving you an image that's around that idea of fantasy. But we can be simpler. The structure of a simple Stable Diffusion prompt is that first you put a medium. So I'll say in the chat, I'm putting it out here, or maybe I'll write it here. A photograph. And then you say, what is it about? So I'll say of octopus, of an octopus. And then where is it? In the middle of the ocean with corals. And then in the style that I want, so in the style of say digital painting. But I mean, these are two mixed prompts, but let's just see what will happen. So I'm gonna, I don't want to choose all of the models because that's just gonna, like, you'll just be waiting for really long. But I know I want it to be a bit fantasy-like, and I also want to just see what this proto-gen model will give me. There are a bunch of settings. We'll go to that as well. So if you signed in and you've got your name coming up here, you can just put in your own. So the prompt, the way the prompt is working is that there's a medium, a photograph, a sculpture, a painting, whatever that might be. And then you say what the picture is about, an octopus, a person, a dog, a camel, or whatever, or a robot, or a computer. And then you give details about that specifically. So you want to say middle of the ocean with corals, or you want to say middle of an office cubicle, or you want to say something similar. And then you give it a style. So I've said digital painting. You can, like people are doing, of course, other artistic styles, but I have stopped taking that on. So I'm just going to hit submit. I honestly cannot say what it'll give me, but one hopes that something interesting will come out of it. So please keep trying this with me. I'm not assuming this is going to be just like a flat demo where we go through it and, you know, everyone leaves. So you can see that this one's given me something a little comical, whereas this has no octopus at all. So perhaps there is something about the way the prompt is written which requires a little more detail. So maybe I'll say a giant octopus, and I will say in the middle of, I'll remove that comma here, and I will say with corals in the background.
And one of the things that you'll notice as you're going through is you'll see that each of these models gives really different output, right? And so analog tends to give photos that are like all like the 70s. Dreamlike is much more kind of photoreal. Dolly is more expensive from a credit perspective, does well on some things, and really does badly on others. And so this really allows you to kind of experiment with kind of what the differences between each of these models do. And it's one of the advantages of this abstraction.
So here you can see it's like giving me a kind of newer thing, which is sort of more expressive in terms of my having changed out the syntax a little bit. So this is a sort of easy way to get started if you're really into getting going on image generation, because I do recall some people registered in from see motion graphics backgrounds, or they're in game design. Once you sort of figured which model works for you best, you'll also start noticing how it works in a particular way. And rather than choosing all of them or more of them, you kind of focus a bit more on one or two models and then get your settings going in that particular way. So here, now I think it's time for us to just like go back into that rhetoric of explaining things to people, prompting them to do a certain thing. So if you're, say, from an art direction or a creative background, not only do you need to explain to your team member who's artist that what do they want, but you also need to explain what you don't want. So maybe you don't want additional arms, you don't want legs, you don't want limbs, you don't want a group of people, you just want a single person. So you can give many of these prompts. We've already put in a few, so this gives like better results from the get-go. You can give a number of outputs that you'd like. You can give a quality, the width and height that you'd like for the picture. And then the most interesting bit, if you are from artistic backgrounds, would be more relevant to you, is an artistic pressure. So that's like saying the blue underdrawing that you do for your first sketch versus the next layer of thick pen ink that you've used versus the next layer which has color. So the more the artistic pressure, the more detailed the drawing, the more it will interpret the prompt that you've given. But at some point, it will be so much that the image will be garbled. So usually between 7 and 14 works really well. So you can experiment a bit with this. And of course, you'll observe that when I'm choosing the models, it's also telling me what is the run cost for each of those particular images. So especially if I see, like if I say, okay, only one of these, it's only 2 credits, but if I hit DALL-E, it's going to up it to 15. So because DALL-E is, of course, a paid aggregator. So this is a simple way to like get going with compare image. Now it's going to be, I'm just going to run you through a few of them, and then we can delve more into people who have questions, what they'd like to do, what they'd like to see, etc. So this is for those who are really into image. Sorry.
There was one question before we move on to the images, which I think
Yeah.
is good. This is, Radhika asked, why do the different models give different outputs?
Right. So basically, just think of it in the same way as working with artists. Somebody is really good at making portraits of humans, while somebody is really good at doing horses. And why is that? Because they took number of years to train themselves in being specialists in that particular style of drawing or that particular style of painting. So there are many models out there. These are few of the popular ones that we've added. So analog diffusion specializes in giving you really nice looking like retro portraits or very nice looking semi saturated colors that were in the era of the Kodak film. Whereas something like Protogen is much better at giving you like digital looking images of specific like artistic styles. So that's basically it. So we've kind of put in the ones that we know are popular and give interesting and sort of good outputs, but we are open to like looking at what that could mean for users. I think, Sean, am I right in saying that we're happy to add more as
we've been adding another model or two every week. So if you have one that is out there that you've seen on Hugging Face or Replicate or something that's come up and we don't have it, just ping us. These things are very easy for us to add in. And then, some in terms of the technical bit of differences, many of them are just trained on different image data sets. So analog diffusion was trained on tens of thousands of analog images. If you look at the Open Journey, what they did is they basically looked at all of the popular outputs of Midjourney and then trained a stable diffusion instance on that. And then there are some technical differences between like, Stable Diffusion 1.4 and 2.1. 2.1 is just the latest one that they've trained. And so some of them are stylistic, some of them are computational, but let's keep going.
Yeah. So, and then Vijay has a question, doesn't it depend on the prompt? That also adds to it, definitely, because there is a base Stable Diffusion model which will have all kinds of images, as James has written here as well. But some of them also respond specifically to words. So, for example, in Open Journey 2, if you write Mid-Journey style, it will give you more Mid-Journey looking images. Or in Analog Diffusion, if you write an analog photograph of whatever, then it will give you something much more close to what you were thinking in your mind. So we can go a little bit deeper into the image prompting. I know that's the more exciting bit of what's happening in the AI world right now, but I just want to just showcase some of the other things that we're doing. So we've got also quick access to exploring the differences between the various large language models that are there on OpenAI, including the latest and greatest with Da Vinci and Code Da Vinci, which gives code-based output as well. So here I'm just going to say, so here again, it's about prompting. So I will say, write a 3-piece Twitter thread on the pros and cons of AI in the creative industry. So here again, I'm just taking one of these models, but maybe just for the heck of it, I'll put Babbage as well. And then I can choose how many outputs I want, what is the quality of it, how creatively I want it to answer versus how close it should be to the data set, and of course, how long it should be with the number of tokens. And I will just hit submit. Right.
So while we're waiting, just the thing that we're just trying to show you here is these are kind of the base, right? And so this is the base image and the base of GPT-3. And then the whole model that we have is we then compose these things into more interesting stuff. So in the upcoming recipes, we'll see how we're sort of combining this with things like context lookups, combining things with Google search APIs to make more and more interesting things on top of this.
Yes. So, so those of you who already had some fun with both of these tools, we do have a simple copy URL which you can share with us and show off in the chat, and then perhaps later put in the Discord as well. We'll run you through that also a little bit. Can we define a database for LLM? Sorry, maybe this Dave could answer a little bit, or Sean.
Not yet, but we'd love to hear about it. If you can describe in the chat more of what you're, going after, or in the Discord, we would love to. We don't have that one yet. You're the first to ask for it, but we're like, the reason that we're doing stuff like this is to get what people want. So we have a channel in Discord called, I think, recipe requests. So if you could put it in there, we'll certainly take a look at it. And in short, the thing that we do is we tend to react very quickly if more than one person wants it.
Right. We've got about 4 or 5 tools that we really like for you to explore and check out. And then I will just run you through all of them in one shot. So we've got a really cool and I think very exciting tool, which is to generate backgrounds for images. So it can pick up any input image, cut it out of that, and put a really beautiful background based on whatever you prompted. Very simple, easy to use. I will add the link here in the chat. So, right. So this is a very fancy whiskey that's in our example. So you can put in any image that you'd like, that you feel you'd like to crop out and do something with. I'm going to put this I have a cute little robot from somewhere else, which I think I built in Gooey also, which I want to cut out and then give them a different background. There we will, when you see some errors, we'll play a bit more with the settings to see if that works well or not. So here we've prompted it to be inside a Christmas wicker basket with golden ribbon, surrounded by some silver gold ornaments, candy canes, and to be like kind of high quality image. So I'm just gonna use the same one. Maybe we can see if this Wally like creature can be in a more Christmassy space. So when you start looking at workflows and once you hit run, you will observe that there are details of it here where it'll first take the input image, cut it out. So all the steps will be available for you to explore and understand as they are being worked out. So still waiting here for the image. You get to edit the image like Magma does. There are specific settings here to resize it, to position it the way we would prefer, even to give you the threshold. Is that what you're talking about? Oh, like cropping the image. Cropping, would you mean cropping like as in cutting it out totally, or do you mean just specifically yes, you see a missing shoulder of the, yeah, so that's what you can use the threshold for. That's the thing. Just because it's AI, one shouldn't assume that it'll be perfect. It is up to us to ensure that we get the settings right and work with it in a collaborative format. So here there is a specific setting. If you go down here in the settings to manage the threshold. So if the threshold is too high or too low, it's kind of got that cut because it's a bit of an image which has some blur in it. And you can also see how it is masked, so you can adjust how you need it to be adjusted. So maybe I'll turn it down a little bit and then I'll hit it again. So then maybe the shoulder doesn't get cut out. I may also add that I am from an era where I had to do this all in Photoshop myself and cut everything out. So I am very glad when I get tools like this. And that is literally how I got to know the Gooey team, because I was like, hey, can you help me with this so that I don't have to do this for my client?
So one thing, just while we're waiting too, Ambika, you might want to show off the history and run as API.
Yes.
Like what those do.
I don't want to do that while it's running. I don't know. Is that okay to do, Dave? In the past.
Fix the
Yes, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it's okay. So
Okay.
Dave, do you want to talk about the change you recently made for everybody here?
Yeah, so basically you can start off a workflow and it'll just run in the background on our servers, and you can close the tab and you can check the history, and you'll see that, once it's done processing, it'll just show up there. So you don't have to like keep the tab open basically.
Oh,
so this is a big deal for anybody that was running long-running workflows. Like animation can often take 3 to 4 minutes. And earlier, if we had like a web connection interruption, like you were doing this on a phone, for example, and then you lost a web connection, your whole thing would be lost. And so now that's no longer true, which is a big deal. And so, that thing, when it's finally done, will show up in your history on that recipe. So if you're waiting around and you think something takes a while and you want to go do something else, just come back to history. You might have to hit refresh on the page for that history, but it's there and we haven't lost it.
Right. So we ran it again, and I think now the arm is kind of there. It's a little bit cut still, but so you can adjust the settings and try to figure it out. Here again, we have access to about 4 models and negative prompting, which has now sort of become the norm. And then you can put in how much of an artistic pressure you need for this in terms of how your prompt is played out. So this now I'm going to keep shifting between text and image tools so that it's fair on anybody who's joined the workshop. And if there's specific questions about images and or text, we can maybe just do a short run through afterwards. So now this is perhaps the funnest tool, and Swada, you are here, so I'm going to give you a shout out on that one. So this is a simple and I think excellent workflow to get going with quick SEO through GPT-3. It has got a section in terms of like what your Google query is for your product, what your website's name is, your URL, and all the keywords that are required for you in for your SEO page. It runs, you have to give it an instruction, which you see here. So I'm gonna just also open one of the examples that we've got for, is it okay to show Kanya? I think that would be nice. Sean, is that fine?
Sure, go for it.
Yeah. So this is a heritage sari brand. So I think that's pretty much like how people might end up searching when they're looking for, say, Kanjivaram saris or heritage saris across for like, say, weddings or whatever. So it gives the website's name, the URL, and the settings instructs you that you need to write an article with keeping a focus on the keywords as a guide and give it a top ranking in the Google search. And then it kind of uses its own creativity, which GPT-3 is pretty good at, to build out a wonderful set of content that you can then use in your web pages. Here we have got maybe some of these things, Sean. I think I'd like for if you could just explain in terms of the search tool, because I'm not a SEO expert.
Sure, and
Perhaps,
don't get
yeah,
into the settings. The settings
okay,
are not really
that's
as
fine.
important.
Okay, right.
Yeah. And so
Yeah,
if you just go to the top, the idea is for most websites, there's some search query out there that they want to rank well for. And so, this is actually a real website that my mother-in-law runs. You go to Kanya.co. It's an old school, sari website. And so she'd like to rank well for heritage saris. And so here, basically, all she has to do is put in the search query that she wants to rank well, put in her own website name and her own website URL, and then she's got a few more keywords. And then we hit submit. And then what's happening here, if you close settings but open details, what we do is we basically go out and we first calls, this thing called an SEO SERP API, which is kind of mirroring Google. So we're discovering in real time which are the top 10 Google search results at this moment that rank the best for heritage sari. And then we're scraping all of that content and then basically putting that into an editable GPT-3 script, right, that you see here at the bottom. And then we're taking that and we're telling it to rewrite this using this other content and integrating the stuff in the names that you put up at the top. And then it ultimately then composes then this page, which is the synthesis of, your own website and the keywords that you put in there, plus whatever content is ranking the best for this right now. And so it really is giving you this sort of automatically created synthesis of, if you want your page to rank well for this is really what you should put in that Google is respecting the best for this particular search query relevant to your particular site. And then in terms of this, yes, there's a bunch of settings you can tweak down below. And if you need more, we can expose more in terms of, allowing you to do this for particular regions, for particular languages. Those stuff are all available at the UI. We didn't expose all of those settings. That's easy for us to do, James, if you're really interested in those things.
Right. And then we have this very fun tool, which now I will show you with Sean's example. Just hit explore and so this is again a very nice example of how we are kind of mixing up workflows where you're able to take, say, a client or a potential client's email address, get the profile image out of their email address, and then put them in a wonderful vintage Burberry scarf and send it out to them. So here we've got Sean's. I can just change it to my other email address, because in this one I just don't use a face. And then I can say woman wearing and standing in the middle of Paris. This needs some tweaking because I think I'm gonna may turn out to be blonde in this one, but definitely it's really exciting to see yourself in something very glamorous like a Burberry scarf. And I think it could be interesting to share with people who are then sort of your potential customers. Um, so again, the settings allow you to tweak the prompts out. Again, this is based on Stable Diffusion, and you can choose artistic pressure, quality, etc. And then also some settings to change the size of the face and the position where they are in the picture. So here again, if you see the settings in the details, it takes my image from my email address, cuts it out, makes a mask of it, and then it generates this image. And then also does a bit of face restoration with GFPGAN, which is another image-based AI tool. So, and then what you can do is also email it to them by putting in all the various details that you need for an email. And you have this like quick tool to tell people about what's happening. Maybe it's your product that you're putting the customer's face in, or it's something more exciting like this Burberry scarf. So this is a quick tool that you can use. So things like this, like workflows like this, including this one where you can take a person's face and put them in another context, are part of Stable Diffusions in painting formats, and are now sort of expandable through these kind of workflows on GUI. And it has a variant which is called image in AI image with a face. So this is without email. In this, you can just add someone's face. Here, I can add a picture of me, and I can say that they're in a Christmassy sweater, and I can hit submit, and it'll give me my face in a Christmas sweater. So these are similar. Of course, you can see the difference. One is picking out email, one you can put your own pictures in, and the workflow is pretty much similar in that sense. Sorry, I wanted to hit detail. So it's going to do the same thing. Right. Oops. So now this is where you really need to figure stuff out with negative prompting. Make sure that it doesn't look so crazy and people don't get stressed out. And occasionally, I think just hitting regenerate also usually gives you a good image. So we'll wait that one out.
At a technical level, just so you guys know, regenerate just swaps out the seed. So by default, most of our recipes run with the seed of 42. Yes. And regenerate then chooses one of, I think, of 2 billion or several billion other, yes. Other potential seeds.
Okay, this one needs work, so we'll get back to this one. And then the other one that's really interesting and perhaps usable if you are now going into were in Google and now going into the market. So this is just a simple tool where you can look up somebody based on their email, and it will give you details about them through LinkedIn and their other profiles, and you can build a contextual email for them. So here we've got Dave's email, and if you see the details, there is a bunch of inputs that have come in from his email, including his LinkedIn URL, his employment history, what his current position is, where he lives. So you can add these particular variables into your email, and it will allow you to write to them in a more contextual way. I think we have an example here, which is more detailed. So here you can see it's the person's name, the city they're in, so person.city, their title, their last employment, or like the latest employment, and then we've got the body of our own email that we want to share with them, and then it turns up as this. So we gave in only their email address, so it was able to get their name, where they live, which is the person's city, their title as Assistant Director of Academic Programs and Services at Pratt, and then give more details about our product or our whatever our ask is, and then uh, kind of generate that email through GPT-3. Is this Sean? Is this message relevant to me? I don't know. In the chat.
I mean, there's one question that I think is a fair one, which is Radhika asked, how do you avoid control misusing these tools to invade privacy and generate deepfakes? And so a couple things that we do have is you'll notice on every output here, there's just a report button. So if we or anybody else or you sees anything that seems untoward, you basically, if you just could, just for the standpoint, if you tap on that report button, any of if somebody basically marks this thing as inappropriate content, we immediately take it down and flag that user. The second thing is, in terms of using these tools to avoid an invasion of privacy. So on the contact lookup stuff, we're looking at stuff that's available via, basically public records. But obviously, we've got, people can get in touch with us from a GDPR standpoint, say if there's anything that they want us to take down. We also pay attention to like who's actually using it in terms of what is the content and the flow that's going through there. But this is a space that's changing a lot, and I feel like there's a balance to be played with allowing people to essentially make interesting content, but at the same time trying to prevent the world from making deepfakes of pornography for everybody else. And so right now we have the reporting tools and these sort of legal things, which gives us sort of the legal requirements at the same level of like stability in OpenAI right now. And then we're just, we have the benefit of being somewhat smaller and watching the actual usage that's going on too. The evil uses, but try to enable those legitimate uses simultaneously. But Radhika, if you want to talk more, I'm happy to talk more about that one too. It's a contentious and fun and exciting and weird and scary era all at the same time.
Right. So we are at the point where we've kind of featured few of our tools, and now before, I know people may want to drop off as it is getting pretty late, but I thought maybe if it would be interesting to you, we could also look at some of the other tools. And if you want to do a quick deep dive into prompting in images or prompting in text, we can like split out a little bit and see if that's something that we'd like to do. We've got these beautiful interactive bot pieces that
Yes.
are now
There's some questions
gaining.
on those.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, feedback poll. You want to do that now itself?
Yeah, I would just show off the
yeah. Let me
video
just
piece.
Yeah. So this again is sort of harnessing that wonderful philosophy of using different workflows together, where we are using lip sync, text to speech, we are using GPT-3, and all together to build a video bot which responds to your questions with this beautiful kind of lip sync. So this is a oh yeah. So this bot that we've sorry about that. I thought it was sharing. I think I lost internet in the middle. Yeah. So this one is up and coming at the, if you're in Bangalore, at the Future Fantastic Festival that's happening in March, which is a tech and AI and climate change festival happening across Bangalore. And we've built this bot for them. It has got a background, like they are from a particular future of the world, and they respond to you in a particular way. So maybe we can ask them what is the role of AI in climate change activism, and then I will hit submit. and they will answer.
So while this is rendering, in some ways, this is very similar to ChatGPT, with the big difference being that you get to control the backing script and create the personality behind it. And so, this was actually kind of the thing that inspired Gooey, that, with our, kind of previous avatar, Dara, we curated a bunch of authors that made, 30 different characters that were these Turing test passing characters that you could talk to. And so we sort of allow anybody to make one of these bots with this personality. And then if you click that little tiny thing in the bottom corner, Ambika, so we allow these to be, embedded on websites. So you can put this embed on your own site. We just hooked this up so that it can be on Facebook and other pieces too. I was showing you how IoT Ready is doing it. So this really allows anybody, right, to say, not only can you leverage these APIs, but you can also create a character that is representing your own brand, that is representing your own, your own company, your own perspective. And so, in this particular, Ambika is for the Be Fantastic Tech Art Festival, which is coming up in a couple months in Bangalore, and it's very much focused on AI and climate change. So they've made a bot that's discusses those issues and is very passionate about those issues, and has the advantage of she knows everything about the internet, and so her world perspective is then seen through that lens too. And so right now, the only thing is that is basically mostly defined by this big prompt that you see in settings. And there was a question I think somebody asked of, can I get a bot that is basically asking questions about a particular data set that's bigger? That is something that we are looking at actively, both in terms of pointing it to a particular website, making the bot be all about that website, or pointing it to a set of documents and then being able to answer natural language queries about that document. And so if you're interested, sort of, we'd love to hear your scenarios. And then what this recipe allows you to do is you put in the prompt, and then you put in the voice that you want, and you put in the video, and then really you have these, basically you have this bot that you can do. And then in Ambika, if you just go up, I'll just show off a couple things here in terms of the tabs. So one, you can go to examples. And so really the whole thing that we have with Gooey is that you can see everyone else's examples. So you can see, how did we build the Harry Potter bot? What's the prompt behind that? What's the prompt behind the Jadka bot, and how are they using it to talk about what they do? The IoT Ready bot that they're actually using on their website is all here. So you can see all of this. And if you just go into, you can't delete it, we're logged in as admins, but you can see all of the work that everybody else is doing, which we think is really useful for learning. And then just go up one more. And then I just want to show up. And then if you do run as API, if you have developers and you want to use these as APIs inside of your own content, this is basically how you can do it. So you can basically just pass us any parameter you saw there. And then, after a few seconds, we'll then respond back with the text and the video. You've seen the history. And then the last thing I wanted to show off is integrations. So this is the place where if you want to hook it up to your own Facebook page, and then later on things like your own Instagram page, you can go ahead and do this. If you want to basically make the embed code for your own website, just ping us. We can get you that too.
Right. So this is now responding to our question about the role of AI in climate change activism.
Intelligence, AI, can play a critical role in climate change activism. AI can be used to analyze large amounts of data quickly and accurately, allowing activists to identify patterns and trends in climate change data that may have previously been overlooked. AI can also be used to create predictive models to help understand how climate change is likely to impact different regions of the world. Additionally, AI can be used to create interactive visualizations and simulations to help people better understand the effects of climate change.
Right. So yeah, so I mean, pretty detailed. So this is another tool that we've been really kind of having some interesting traction around, and we've also done a bunch of workshops around this. It's been really interesting to see how people have been using it, the characters that they've been building, and of course it has a very direct business use as well. So of course we've done SEO, we've looked at, Sean told us about the Google image search, we've done the language models, both of these. and the email lookups. Of course, then if you need to do similarly to image compare, there is also a voice generation comparer. So you can look at our current integrations include Google text to speech and UberDuck, and then adding that to your lip sync. Here we've got Dwayne Johnson. Just removing backgrounds, that's like a fairly important thing if you have a lot of artwork related stuff to do. Again, this is a sort of spin-off of getting an image and adding a prompt to it and it changing out. And then this one is fairly popular with our creators, where you can give prompts based on particular frames as keyframes, and then it'll do a beautiful little animation for you. And you can close the tab and come back in like 10 minutes and you have a wonderful little animated video there. And then you can also, of course, use our upscaler if you need to like upscale your images. So this is where we are at in terms of our tools. And these are almost updated every day. We are fixing things every day, and we are also adding a lot more to each of them. And then if there are particular ones that you want to just do a deep dive in, we can do that now. But before that, if Swati would like to get the poll running, so we can just kind of do a bit of a reset visually, and then we'll know where people are at.
Yeah, we just have
Is that the
a
right
very
time?
quick poll for you, just to help us make these workshops better. We intend to do many more of these in the coming few days. So I don't think this should take you more than 10 seconds. So we'd love to hear what your feedback is.
I just wanted to thank everybody for being here and everybody that asked questions. We are available on Discord. You can see my email address here. And I hope this has been useful, and we can't wait to see what you guys build. Again, our kind of philosophy on all of this is we're just trying to be in many ways a layer on top, and to be a place where people can really easily stitch together these other tools that the rest of the industry is making, so that we're not trying to compete with any of the other kind of base models or anything else that's out there. We're trying to basically say, hey, can we make it really simple for people to compose a lot of them together? And then, as we keep saying, we can't wait to see what you guys build. And so please get in touch with us if you want to build something that we don't have. All of the recipes you've seen here have been predominantly built from requests that people have had, and then we get to share that out with everyone else too. And so that's really what we're trying to do here. So if there's a scenario or something in mind that we don't yet support, please tell us. And at this point, we're really fast at, we don't yet have all the editing tools in some ways for you to do all of that yourself, but that's coming. And so if you want to build something that isn't here, just tell us, and we're pretty fast at putting that together.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I'm Patrick. May I share my experience of using your website?
Sure, please. Yes, we'd love to hear it.
If my English is not clear, you can stop me
It's
again anytime. Okay. First, I'm not a programmer. I'm a marketing person and a tutor, just part-time tutor, part-time teachers. Okay. So I also do the SEO. May I share my desktop?
Okay.
Okay. This the SEO report the human being do, not AI. Okay. We have standard format. When that, okay. This for the HTS. Okay. We have, so it's unlike your way of doing SEO. Okay. But it's not the point I want to share. I want to share is that, you know what, the COVID-19, the pandemic, more and more people, they want to study online, not in the school. Okay. I want to develop, as a tutor, I want to develop a lot of course. You know what?
So Patrick, I'd be happy to just take this one offline and we can do a session. So if you just do book time with us on the website, my calendar is there, and I'd be happy to do a longer kind of deep dive on your particular scenario.
Yes.
And I think that might be better.
Now I using the function, the lip sync functions, to find a way I can do that. you know what?
Yeah.
Now
So
I'm
we can
I'm
help and
taking
bring. Yeah. And so generally what we've done, and we really enjoy this process, is we just sort of have a half an hour discussion and kind of go over any of the scenarios that you guys have. And then usually what we'll get out of that is a set of ideas. And then, you know, we found that it's really fast for us and for you to basically put these together. And so I'm happy to do that with you, Patrick, and we can work to make that one happen. I just think in the interest of everybody else's time, we should just try to take
Yes.
shorter questions.
Okay. Maybe
But
we
please
can
schedule me.
arrange. Maybe we can
I'll
arrange
send you my
another time.
calendar link. Yes,
Okay.
I'll send you the calendar link right now.
Okay. And I try to use your lip sync to make some movie. Maybe I can share one or two. Okay.
Let's do that in the meeting if you don't mind.
Okay.
I just know it's really late for a bunch of folks. And I'd be happy to, and I really do actually want to see what worked and what didn't. I just want to respect everybody else's time.
Okay. So, yeah. So I give back the desktop to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if anyone wants to hang back and do a bit of like prompting, we still have a bit of time. But if you feel like it's been too much of a long day and it's Friday and you want to hop off, it's totally on you. I think we've kind of gone through most of our tools. If there's something specific that you'd like us to share with like you and everybody else here, we can like just dive into that as well. What would you like to do? We are opening it up to you guys.
There was one question just on our kind of roadmap. We'll publish that. The only thing I would say is it's dynamic, right? In terms of we are looking at where the most resonance is happening and where we're getting the most number of requests. So I feel like we can give you a proper roadmap that goes out about 3 months. Beyond that, I feel like we want to give ourselves the flexibility to change our mind.
Okay, very quiet. I think it's too much of a Friday night.
The Discord is super active. Please ask any questions there. We're all, you know, we have a team that is distributed across the world, so we tend to respond at all hours of both the day and night. So yeah.
We'll be doing more deep dives into particular tools. If that's something that's of interest to you, let us also know on Discord, and then we can like collaborate together on a workshop that's specific to those ideas, whether it's prompting, whether like it's for images, or whether you want to do more of text-based stuff, or like the other workflows. We've already done video bots. That would work out interestingly, like to see what's happening next. If there's something specific that you want to like you're stuck on right now, happy to take that on as
well. Keshav, you had a question I didn't quite understand. Do you want to do that one too? And then James, I think you had another question. Keshav, are you still here? Okay, James, why don't you go ahead then?
Yes, I would like to know if about prompting, if you have been able to make GPT-3 create a prompt for an image generation tool. What do you know, for example, you have a short article and you want him to generate a prompt for an image generator about this article, whatever he wants. Have you been able to do that, to have GPT-3 make the prompt and then put it in DALL-E and have some image a little bit about the article?
well. Right. I've tried it with ChatGPT, but not our tools, because I just end up prompting myself. But what I could do for you is, James, that I will set up an example and I will post those links on Discord. So if there's something specific that you're already thinking about, I'd be happy to take that on as an example. Like maybe there's an article that you liked and that you want the image for, like, and I can work with that if you'd like. Yeah.
In fact, my goal will be to have all articles. You know, something that could work for all articles, so not one in particular.
Okay.
And not one image also.
So let me do that. If you're active on Discord, then I'll try to do something over the next few days, and I'll put a shout out to you to have a look if it's working out for you.
And the only thing I would add there, James, and this is kind of, you know, our kind of philosophy of this. So if you take a look at this, this is doing something similar to what you're talking about, which is, you know, as I said, this is going and it's taking a search query and then it's really putting it through a prompt. And so if you change this prompt task, right, to say, hey, I'm trying to create image prompts, right? And then you give it some of the examples of what that looks like. Like this is basically how you could go ahead and change that to basically tweak the GPT-3 script to give what you want, right? And so this is kind of how you do that in production, right? And so all this is really doing is it's basically going and it's getting the search results, right, for your particular query. And then you can see here, it's just appending this. And so it's basically taking the text you see up at the top, and then it's taking the articles or right the results that you see below. And so you can definitely just try tweaking this thing directly to say, hey, I'm trying to create, you know, image summaries of this, and then give it 1 or 2 examples of that image summary, then plus your other ones, and then chances are it'll then spit it out. And then we can take that to do image generation against it. So as I said, it's not that far off. And then with the settings, you can really get behind kind of what's happening and begin to make it your own.
Yes, this I understand, but you see, the source that you provide him is dynamic because you first get the search results for this query. But if it's a prompt about an article, you need to get prompts that are different every time you ask.
Yes. And so that's where the API comes in. Right. And so you would basically make this one with your GPT-3 prompt and then call the API with a different search query parameter, like 1,000 times. Does that make sense? And so this is how we kind of expose that. So in short, you can work here to get your GPT-3 prompt in settings to be exactly what you want. That gives you consistent results, and then use the API to then swap out your search query to run it at scale.
Yes, but do you understand that in order to generate a prompt good for image generation, you need to give him example of good prompts. And and here, if it's a search engine result, is good for generating an article, but not good for generating a prompt. So you know.
So I get that. So basically, my suggestion here is if you just go into settings and you basically say, you know, please create, you know, image prompts. And then what you would do is you would take essentially the example that you see here, you know, which is like, take this first one, which is this content that you're getting back, right? And then you would append it, right? And then you would basically say image prompt, right? And then do this twice manually, right? Where you take content and you say, here's the image prompt from it. And then run this, then for all of the other ones, it'll do the same thing, right? It'll then take whatever that top image result prompt is and then spit out your image prompt. That's how you do it. Anyways, we can work at a longer piece, but that's the general pattern that you would follow here.
We can connect, James. We'll connect.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Keshav over here, I still didn't quite understand your question. So, and then Dave was saying, like some of those pieces anyways, you may need to come talk with us for something a little at that level of tweaking, James. We may need to, anyways, we'll work with you on it to get it to work. We're very close. Other questions? Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Ambika and team.
Thank you, everyone.
And we'll see you on Discord and see you next time.